Hey everybody! So I decided to make some videos to step people through the practice games. And in case you don't know what those are, let me go to single player, then learn to play. And here are the 5 scripted scenarios, which we've got a lot of compliments on, and that people think they're very well done, but they are scripted scenarios in that they sort of take your hand and teach you all the concepts, sort of step by step by step. You know, if you want to build this building, you need steel. In order to make steel, here, build this iron here, and then build the steel mill here, and you get the steel, and then you can build the building. So, you know, they teach you the game in a very regimented fashion. Some people like learning in a more sort of free-form aspect, which is what the practice games are. But when you install Offworld Training Company for the first time, the only thing you'll see will be these 5 scripted scenarios, which are under Learn to Play. But however, after you finish the first 2, these other 5 down here will unlock. They're unlocked for me because I'm on the development build, but for everyone else, you want to basically at least play through the first 2, which will teach you the basics. They shouldn't take long. It shouldn't take probably more than 15 minutes to beat both of those. And then you can start going through the practice games if that's what you prefer. I mean, I think the scripted scripted tutorials are great, and so I think people should play through them. But if you want to jump into the practice games, I can go ahead and do that as well. And the practice games are arranged in a way so that basically there's one for each of the 4 factions. This first one here is robotic, then expansive, then scavenger, finally scientific, and then finally the last one you can basically play any of the HQs you want to. But these practice games also step you through the first 5 difficulty levels. Applicant to intern to assistant to employee, and then finally on manager. And manager is the even level. That's the same level that the AI plays at. So if you win this last practice game, you're able to beat the AI at its own level in equal footing. So you should be proud of being able to beat the final practice game. Now I'm going to play through all 5 of them and give you some advice as you go. All right, so let's start with the first one. All right, so this gives you a little background on the robotic, and let's start the mission. So the robotic HQ is unique because it's the only one that doesn't require life support at all. So you don't need food, you don't need water, you don't need oxygen. You also don't need, let me mouse over the, let me move my head. I'm gonna move myself up over here. You also, see, it doesn't require life support. You also use power instead of fuel. So all 4 of those things, water, oxygen, food, fuel, you don't need those at all. You can ignore them. And that's basically the entire water tree. So you can actually survive without water at all, which is really nice. You do, however, need power for a unit, so you're definitely going to want to build some power. Solar panels, wind turbines, geothermal plants. The other important bonus for the robotics is that if you put 2 buildings next to each other, that where one building supplies the other one, you get a bonus. So if you put an iron mine next to a steel mill, and steel mills require iron to function, that steel mill is going to work 50% faster because it's next to an iron mine. So you want to kind of build these chains of production if you're robotic. All right, but what's this whole game about? Perhaps if you want a little intro, or if you're just watching the game on YouTube and you don't actually own it yet, you might want a little intro on what's going on here. So the game begins. There's this neutral colony in the middle of the map, and this is basically your market. This is who you're selling your goods to. And if you mouse over the HQ, you'll see that it's consuming water, it's consuming fuels, oxygen, and glass. So over the course of the game, all of those resources are going to go up in value because this colony is buying those resources. So those would all be good ones to start making, because their price is going to go. But your first job when you start Offworld Training Company is to look for a place to found your headquarters. So I'm robotic, so I need to find a place for my robots. And generally speaking, robots need iron, they need an aluminum, and a good source of power. So I might be looking for basically, if I could find iron and a geotherm, that would be awesome. This is not a bad spot here, actually, because it's got iron and aluminum right next to each other, but I'll see what else I can find. I'm going to look up here you see this little hint there telling me that there's a good chance I might find iron in this area, and I did. I found some iron there. So these are all this is a pretty good area up here. I think I'm gonna go up here because these are what we call combo tiles, which means they have high iron, and they both have iron and aluminum on it. So if I put a mine on both of these tiles, it'll be producing iron and aluminum for me. So to found, you click on your HQ, find a location nearby the base. You notice that if I as I move them around, you see it says 40 plus 40, and that's a symbol for aluminum, plus 60. What that means is that when I found, I'm going to get like a one-time bonus of those resources. And the resources that are underneath my HQ, they're basically going to disappear from the map. So I think I'm going to go over here. That gives me a little boost of iron, a little boost of aluminum. And most importantly, I can start building my mines on these resources which are close to me. So how do you build a metal mine? All right, so I want iron. Here's iron. So you mouse over this, and then if you want a resource, all you do is you look at the resource, and then you mouse over directly across from it, and you find the building next to it. Construct metal mine. So click on that to construct a metal mine, and see it's actually already has sort of highlighted this tile for me. So I'm going to click on that, and now it's going to start building, and I'm going to do that again, so that I get both the iron and the aluminum. Now, also very important is the reason you want iron is so that you can make steel. So, because steel is like very, very important resource in getting the game. You need it to upgrade your HQ, and almost every building in the game requires steel. So I'm going to grab a steel mill. Now, you see I can put it almost anywhere. The game's kind of, you see it's shading these tiles. It's recommending that I put the HQ, it's recommending that I put the steel mill somewhere next to the HQ. So that's what I'm going to do. But remember I said that because I'm robotic, if I put my steel mill next to an iron mine, I get a little bit of bonus. So here I would get a 50% bonus. Here I get a 75% bonus because it's next to two iron mines. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right there. And one steel mill is probably not enough. I'm going to build another one. And that leaves me... So notice every time I place a building, you see my borders expand. And basically what that means is I'm claiming this tile. Now I'm the only person in the rest of the game who can own this tile and do stuff with it. However, you can't just claim as many tiles as you want. You have a limitation. Right now I have 2 extra claims. So the question is, what do I want to do with those? Well, since I'm a robotic, power is a big deal. So one thing I might want to do is, to build power, you can build a solar panel, you can build a wind turbine, or a geothermal plant. Geothermal plants produce the most, but they're very limited. There's only so many on the map. But I'm going to see where one is. Okay, there's 3 geotherms over here. So I'm going to put a geotherm right down to that tile. And last thing I might do is... the
black market is
let's
online.
see. Now I'm just looking for some good resources that I don't have. Okay, so there's a high silicon down here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Silicon is useful for building glass and electronics. Alright, and now the next step is, so now I'm out of claims. So if you mouse over this building here, if you mouse over this button here and you're like, I want some more claims, it's sort of telling you, well, you need to upgrade your HQ. This is the button for upgrading your headquarters, and it glows when you have the right amount of resources. So to upgrade it, I need 10 aluminum, 20 steel, and 2 electronics. So I've got plenty of electronics, I got plenty of steel, and I got plenty of iron. So, I got plenty of aluminum. So I'm going to hit the upgrade button. So I'm now level 2. Gives me 4 more claims, so now I decide what I want to do with that. So I think that I will maybe build another geothermal plant. You never really have enough geotherms. Well, you can. That would drive down the price. But as a robotic, you definitely, since you don't have to worry about water and food and oxygen, you can afford to have a couple geotherms. Build another steel mill. Whoops. So I misclicked there. I hit the wrong tile. That's fine. Actually, you can abandon your construction and then click on the tile, and then you can actually return the claim. As long as you don't finish a building on a tile, you can always return the claim. So even if you misclick, that's no big deal. So I'm going to click here, put steel mill down. So as robotic, you need electronics to upgrade. So that's one thing I might want to focus on. So to build electronics, to find out what a resource needs, you can mouse over this. It says, produced by electronics factory consumes aluminum, carbon, and silicon. So I need aluminum, silicon. I've got aluminum. I've got silicon. I need carbon. All right, so I click on the carbon, on the elemental quarry for carbon. Okay, so there are a bunch of low carbon tiles here. I'm going to hold down the shift key so I can place down 2 buildings. Click, click. So that gives me 2 carbon quarries. And now I'm out of claims, so I want to upgrade again. It gives me 4 more claims, so now I can build an electronics factory. So click on the electronics factory. I'm going to put it here next, so I get the bonus for being next to these mines, which are producing aluminum. And again, electronics requires aluminum, so being next to the aluminum gives it a little bit of bonus. And now remember, this specific thing I'm talking about here, of the factories get a bonus for being next to an aluminum mine, that only applies to the robotic faction, which is what we're playing right now. Oh, speaking of which, I have a neighbor, Maisie Song, who's also playing as robotic, and she has founded her HQ. She's grabbed some aluminum, and she's on her way down here for some water. Which makes sense because water's looking pretty good. Actually, I'm going to get into water. However, since this whole map is ice, full of ice, you can actually just build solar condensers and just put them down right directly on the ice. And that's what I'm going to do. So these tiles are just going to start producing water directly for me. Solar condensers produce a pretty good amount of water, but the downside is they don't work at night. It's about to be night, so I have to kind of wait for in the morning for them to turn back on. All right. Now, I should also bring your attention to this, what's going on up here. This is the stock market. So you see, I have a stock price of $33. Maisie Song has a price of $16. My price is higher because I have more shares of my stock have been bought up than her. And that's because I'm playing on a very easy difficulty level. Playing an applicant, you actually start with 6 shares of stock. And to win the game, to win Offworld, what you literally have to do is to buy out your opponent. And that can be done in one of 2 ways. One is once all the stock is purchased, and like one player owns 4, one player might own 5, another player owns 3, another player owns 2. At some point, you can't buy shares from the open market. So what you have to do is you have to do a buyout, which is you pay double price for the shares that you don't own, and that allows you to take over that company. So we'll see that later, probably when we get to practice games 4 or 5. For this game, I'm probably going to do what's called a majority buyout, which is that if I see this lock here, let me show you what happens when I start buying. I'm going to sell some resources. I'm going to buy a share of Maisie's stock. So you see, that's my share. As I buy stock, it's going to go in this direction. As she buys stock, it's going to go in this direction. My goal is to get to buy a share of stock on this side. If I do that, I eliminate Maisie Song from the game. It's called a majority buyout. And the idea is if your opponents own more than half of your shares, you're eliminated in a majority buyout, because at that point you can no longer control at least half of your own stock. So Maisie Song is she wants to at least buy those 5 shares. And you see how it looks like one giant bar for me? Once you get to 5 shares, a sort of special thing happens. This lock closes to signify that you're no longer vulnerable to a majority buyout, and those 5 shares, they all turn into kind of one giant share. And that means if someone wants to buy you out, they're gonna have to buy all 5 of those shares in one big chunk. All right, so I should probably upgrade. Let's see what's making a lot of money. So I'm making a lot of money off of my water. I hold down shift, sell them 100 at a time. Okay, so I really crashed out the price of water. However, now that water is so cheap, if you look here, if I mouse over farms, it tells me current net revenue for farms $90. That means that if I put down farms, they would be making me $90 a second. Now I'm going to put the farms again next to the solar condensers, so I get the nice bonus for being next to a building that produces water. Let's see here, I'm going to upgrade again. Maybe I'll put down some, might be a nice time for some glass kilns, because before I do that, let me put down some reactors. Glass kilns require oxygen. Oxygen comes from reactors, so it's good to put them next to them. I'm trying to get all my buildings to get those nice input bonuses. Alright, that gives me some money to buy a couple more shares of Maisie. See, I got 4 more claims. What is valuable? Food is still looking pretty good. So I'm go more into food. Alright. So I need 3 more shares basically before I can buy out Maisie. And I'm gonna speed up the game a little bit here, because at this point I'm doing well. I'm making money. All my, I pretty much have everything I need. It looks like I'm actually negative in water. So if you mouse over here, you see that I've got so many farms or reactors that they're consuming more water than I can produce. So I can fix that. Probably the way to do that is, well, I guess I'll just throw it down. I got 2 extra claims. I'll throw down 2 more condensers. I should take care of that problem. And that's important because if I don't have enough water, I'm going to have to buy water in the market to make the food and oxygen and fuel. And so eventually that'll keep driving that water price higher and higher and higher. Alright, so doing pretty well. Looks like I'm almost got what I need. So if I mouse over the buy button, you see this little yellow warning sign here? So that means Maisie is in danger of majority buyout. If someone buys 1 more share of Maisie's stock, she's eliminated from the game. If I mouse over this, it tells me I need 21,000. Let me move my head again. This might be a good place. Oh, it's not letting me put there. Alright. No, I'll just stick here then. Alright. So I need just a little bit more. Okay, so now I got what I need. Bam. Victory. So that's how you can win the first practice game. Now let's jump into the second one.